The wedding gown feels like a burial shroud. Seraphine stands motionless before the cracked mirror in her family's crumbling estate, watching a stranger stare back at her. The dress is borrowed, yellowed with age, cinched too tight at the waist because her mother couldn't afford alterations. Lace frays at the sleeves where moths have feasted. A bride dressed in decay, offered up to a dying king. "Stop fidgeting," her mother snaps, yanking the veil into place with hands that tremble, though whether from age or greed, Seraphine cannot tell. This is the greatest honor our pack has ever received. Honor. The word tastes like ash on her tongue. 3 days ago, messengers arrived from the Iron Veil pack with an offer that sent her father into fits of celebration. The Alpha King Kalen Voss, ruler of the Northern Dominion, conqueror of 12 territories, the wolf who made grown men weep with a single glance. He wanted a bride. Not just any bride. A healer bride. And somehow word of Seraphine's gifts had reached his blood-stained throne. "They say he's cursed," her younger sister Alara whispers from the doorway, eyes wide with morbid fascination. "They say silver runs through his veins now, burning him from the inside, that he screams through the night and tears his own flesh trying to claw it out." "Ilara!" Their mother's voice cracks like a whip. "Hold your tongue." But Seraphine has heard the rumors too. Everyone has. 6 months ago, the Alpha King led his forces against the Shadowmere Rebellion and emerged victorious, but changed. Broken. A blade cursed with ancient silver magic had found its way between his ribs, and no healer in 7 territories could draw the poison out. The most powerful wolf in the known world was rotting from within, and his advisors had grown desperate enough to seek a bride from a disgraced pack with nothing to offer but a daughter with golden hands. "You should be grateful," her mother continues, adjusting Seraphine's veil with sharp, impatient tugs. "Your healing saved you from the fate your plain face would have earned. No alpha would have looked twice at you otherwise." The words don't sting anymore. Seraphine stopped letting her mother's cruelty draw blood years ago. She learned to wrap her heart in silence, to bury her pain so deep even her wolf couldn't howl it free. "The carriage is here," her father bellows from below, his voice thick with drink and triumph. "Bring down my golden goose." Golden goose. Not daughter, not even bride, just currency. A transaction wrapped in white lace and desperate prayers. Seraphine takes one last look at the mirror. Her eyes, pale gray, the color of winter moons, stare back without hope, without fear. She made peace with her fate the moment her father sold her. Now she simply needs to survive it. The journey to Ironvale takes 4 days through mountain passes still scarred by war. Her escorts are grim-faced warriors who speak to her only in clipped commands: eat, sleep, and move. They look at her like she's already a ghost, a sacrifice being led to slaughter. She doesn't blame them. She's heard what happens to the Alpha King's healers. 3 have tried to cure him in the past 6 months. 3 have failed. Their bodies were returned to their families in pieces. Not because the king killed them. The warriors whisper when they think she can't hear, but because his curse did. The silver sickness tears apart anyone who tries to touch it with healing magic. It consumes them, devours their gift, and leaves nothing but hollow shells that crumble to dust. And now it's her turn. The fortress rises from the mist like a beast from nightmare, all black iron and jagged stone, perched on cliffs that plunge into roaring seas below. No gardens soften its edges, no banners brighten its walls. Even the sky above seems darker here, perpetually bruised with storm clouds that never quite break. "Valemore Fortress," one of her escorts mutters, making a sign against evil. "Where hope goes to die." The gates groan open, revealing a courtyard packed with silent figures. Hundreds of wolves have gathered to witness her arrival. Warriors in battle-worn armor, servants in gray homespun, nobles in furs and jewels that do nothing to hide their hollow eyes. They part as the carriage rolls through, and Seraphine feels their gazes like physical weight pressing against her chest. No one cheers. No one smiles. They stare at her with something that might be pity, might be resignation, might be the exhausted acceptance of people who have watched too many brides walk these stones and never walk out again. The carriage stops before a massive staircase leading to iron doors carved with wolves devouring moons. A woman descends to meet them, tall and severe, her silver hair pulled back so tightly it stretches the skin of her face. Her eyes are chips of blue ice, and they assess Seraphine with the warmth of a butcher examining meat. "I am Mordra," the woman announces, her voice carrying across the silent courtyard. "Keeper of the king's household. You will address me as such." She doesn't offer welcome. She doesn't acknowledge Seraphine as the future queen. She simply turns and begins climbing the stairs, clearly expecting obedience. Seraphine follows on legs that threaten to buckle, clutching her borrowed skirts to keep from tripping. The fortress swallows her whole, its corridors dark and endless, and torches guttering in brackets that look like skeletal hands. The air grows colder with each step, heavy with something that makes the creature inside her whimper and press low. Pain. The whole fortress reeks of pain. And underneath it, something else. Something that calls to the healer in her blood, that makes her palms itch and her gift stir restlessly beneath her skin. Suffering so profound it has seeped into the very stones. They stop before doors even more massive than the entrance. Black wood banded with silver that makes Seraphine's teeth ache just looking at it. Mordra turns, her expression unreadable. "The king is unwell today. The bonding ceremony will be brief." Her lips thin. "Do not speak unless spoken to. Do not meet his eyes. Do not, under any circumstances, attempt to touch him with your power until given explicit permission." The last healer who tried without consent. She stops, something flickering across her frozen features. "Just don't." The doors swing open, and Seraphine steps into hell. The throne room stretches before her like a wound, vast and shadowed, lit only by dying embers in a fireplace large enough to roast an ox. Tapestries hang in tatters from walls stained with something dark. The air tastes of blood and fever, thick enough to choke on. And there, on a throne of black iron and bone, sits the monster she's been sold to. Seraphine's first thought is that the rumors were wrong. He's not dying. He's already dead. A corpse propped up on a seat of power, kept upright by sheer stubborn will. His skin is gray as grave dirt, stretched tight over bones that seem too sharp, too prominent. Black veins crawl up his neck and across his jaw, like cracks in shattered marble. His hair, dark as a raven's wing, hangs lank and damp with sweat. But his eyes. Gods above, his eyes. They burn gold in his ruined face, bright as molten metal, alive with a fury that steals the breath from her lungs. Those eyes track her approach with predatory focus, and Seraphine feels her wolf slam against her ribs in pure, instinctive terror. Every cell in her body screams to run, to flee, and to escape this broken god before he drags her down with him. She forces herself to keep walking. "So." His voice is a ruin, gravel and glass, each word clearly costing him. "This is the healer they've found me. This is the miracle worker who's supposed to save the mighty Alpha King." A laugh scrapes out of him, more cough than humor. "You're barely more than a pup." "I am 23 winters, my king," Seraphine says quietly, keeping her eyes fixed on the floor. "Old enough to have trained with the Thornwood elders. Old enough to have gifts that... Gifts." He spits the word like poison. "I've seen what happens to gifts when they meet what lives in me. Your predecessors thought their gifts would save them too." His hand lifts weakly, gesturing to the shadows at the edge of the room. "Mordra, show her." The keeper steps forward, producing 3 small urns from the folds of her cloak. She opens each one with ceremonial precision, revealing ashes, fine and gray, with flecks of something that glitters like crushed diamonds. Helwyn of the Ashford Peck, Brennan of Stormholt, Isolde of the Singing Waters. Mordra's voice is flat, reciting names like a death toll. Each one believed their healing would be different. Each one was consumed within hours of attempting to draw out the curse. Seraphine stares at the urns, at the remains of 3 healers reduced to dust, and something cold settles in her stomach. Not fear. She made peace with fear days ago. Something else. Something that feels almost like recognition. Why did they fail? She asks, surprising herself with the steadiness of her voice. The king's gold eyes narrow. You dare question? I dare nothing, my king. I simply wish to understand. She finally lifts her gaze, meeting his for just a heartbeat before dropping it again. If I'm to die attempting to heal you, I would at least like to know why those before me perished. Perhaps their methods were flawed. Perhaps you think yourself better than them. His voice drops to a dangerous growl, and even in his weakened state, the alpha power in it makes her knees want to buckle. Perhaps you believe your gift is special, unique, touched by the moon goddess herself. No, my king. Seraphine keeps her tone even, though her heart hammers against her ribs. I think myself desperate, and desperation sometimes succeeds where confidence fails. Silence crashes through the throne room. The warriors lining the walls shift uneasily, exchanging glances that speak of shock and something that might be grudging respect. No one speaks to the Alpha King this way. No one has dared in years. But something shifts in those burning gold eyes. The fury dims slightly, replaced by something else. Curiosity, perhaps, or exhaustion too profound for anger. Leave us, he commands, and the room empties in seconds, guards and servants and even Mordra fleeing like shadows before dawn. Only when the doors boom shut does he speak again. Come closer. Seraphine obeys, climbing the steps to the throne until she stands close enough to see the sweat beading on his brow, the fine tremors racking his massive frame. Up close, he's even more terrifying, not despite his weakness, but because of it. She can see what he was before the curse. Broad shoulders now wasted, powerful hands now skeletal, a warrior's body being devoured from within. You're not afraid, he observes, studying her face with unsettling intensity. Or you hide it well. Fear won't save me, my king. Neither will its absence. She holds his gaze, fighting the instinct to submit. I was sold to you as a bride and a healer. I intend to fulfill at least one of those roles before I die. And if you survive? The question catches her off guard. My king? If you somehow succeed where others failed, if you draw this poison from my blood and I rise from this throne whole again. He leans forward, and even that small movement makes him grimace with pain. What then, little healer? What reward would you claim? Seraphine considers the question carefully. She could ask for freedom, for wealth, for power. She could demand her family be elevated, their debts erased, their status restored. Any of those answers would be expected, understandable. But looking into those gold eyes, at the man trapped behind the monster the curse has made him, she finds herself saying something else entirely. I would ask for nothing, my king. Healing is what I was born to do. If I succeed, that will be reward enough. He stares at her for a long moment, and something flickers across his ruined features. Not softness. She doubts this man has known softness in years. But perhaps surprise. Perhaps the faintest crack in walls built from pain and betrayal. The bonding ceremony will proceed, he says finally, slumping back against his throne. Not because I believe you can save me, but because my advisors insist on the pretense of hope. Tomorrow, you will be named my queen. The day after, you may attempt your healing. His eyes close, dismissing her. Mordra will show you to your chambers. Do not wander the fortress alone after dark. There are things here worse than me. Seraphine bows and retreats, her mind racing with everything she's seen and heard. At the door, she pauses, some instinct making her turn back. My king? His eyes crack open, gold burning in the shadows. What? The curse. When it takes you, when the pain is worst, what do you see? The question hangs in the air, and for a moment she thinks he won't answer. Then, so quietly she almost misses it. My mother, dying in my arms while I was too weak to save her. His voice breaks on the words. Every night, I watch her die again, and every night, the silver burns a little deeper. The doors close between them, but Seraphine carries those words with her into the darkness of the fortress, turning them over in her mind like stones. A curse that feeds on grief. A king who blames himself for a death he couldn't prevent. And suddenly she thinks she understands why 3 healers failed, and what she might need to do differently. Her chambers are surprisingly warm, a fire crackling in a hearth of carved stone, thick furs piled on a bed large enough for 4. Seraphine suspects this is more oversight than generosity. Quarters prepared for a queen, maintained by servants who didn't expect another sacrifice so soon. She doesn't sleep. Instead, she sits by the window watching the moon trace its path across the churning sky, thinking about curses and grief, and a king with golden eyes full of ancient pain. Dawn brings Mordra with a tray of food and a schedule of the day's events. The bonding ceremony will take place at noon. Seraphine will be dressed, presented, and bound to the Alpha King in a ritual as old as the wolf packs themselves. After that, she will belong to him, body, soul, and healing gift. Eat, Mordra commands, setting down the tray with unnecessary force. You'll need your strength. For the ceremony, or for what comes after? The keeper's ice-blue eyes flicker with something that might be respect. Both. The king's episodes have been worsening. Last night, 3 guards had to restrain him when the silver flared. He nearly tore out his own throat trying to... She stops, pressing her lips together. Just eat. Seraphine picks at the bread and cheese, her appetite non-existent but her healer's. Training insisting on fuel. How long has he been like this? Since the battle at Shadowmere, 6 months of slow decay. Mordra moves about the room, laying out ceremonial garments with mechanical precision. He was magnificent before, the strongest alpha in 7 generations. Wolves would cross continents just to pledge fealty at his feet. Her hands pause on a length of silver-threaded silk. Now they come to watch him die. And his family, his pack, they've done nothing? Mordra's laugh is bitter as winter wind. His uncle Valdric serves as regent, handling the matters the king can no longer attend to. A devoted man, by all appearances. So devoted that he's already preparing for the succession. She turns, her expression hard. The king has no heirs, no siblings. When he dies, Valdric inherits everything. Make of that what you will. The implication settles over Seraphine like a shroud, a curse that conveniently appeared after a battle. An uncle waiting in the wings, 3 healers who failed, their ashes sealed in urns on display like trophies. Has anyone questioned? Questions get answered with disappearances in Valemore Fortress. Mordra's voice drops to barely a whisper. If you have any wisdom at all, little healer, you'll do what you're told, die when you're supposed to, and cause no trouble in between. She sweeps from the room before Seraphine can respond, leaving behind the scent of fear masked as hostility. The bonding ceremony is held in the fortress's great hall, a cavernous space lit by hundreds of candles that do little to chase away the shadows. Wolves pack the galleries, their eyes following Seraphine as she walks the long aisle toward the dais where the Alpha King waits. He's standing today. Barely. 2 massive warriors flank him, their hands hovering near his elbows, ready to catch him if he falls. He's been dressed in black and gold, the colors of his house. but no finery can disguise the ravages of the curse. He looks like death wearing a crown, and yet, when Seraphine reaches him, those gold eyes burn with something almost like hunger. "You came," he murmurs, low enough that only she can hear. "Did you expect me to run?" The others considered it. One actually tried. A ghost of a smile crosses his cracked lips. She didn't get far. The ceremony itself is brief. Words spoken in the old tongue, blood exchanged from shallow cuts across their palms, a binding cord wrapped around their joined hands. Seraphine feels the moment the bond snaps into place, a golden thread connecting her soul to his, and with it comes a flood of sensation that nearly drives her to her knees. Pain. Endless, excruciating pain. This is what he lives with every moment of every day. Fire in his blood, glass in his bones, silver eating him alive from the inside out. She gasps, her vision swimming, and distantly feels his hand tighten around hers. "Breathe." His voice cuts through the agony, an anchor in the storm. "Focus on my voice. Breathe." She forces air into her lungs, forces the pain back, forces the bond to settle into something manageable. When her vision clears, she finds him watching her with an expression she can't read. "Now you know," he says quietly. "Now you understand what you've married yourself to." Before she can respond, a figure emerges from the crowd, a tall man with the king's features rendered in softer lines, his smile warm and welcoming in a way that feels rehearsed. "Nephew." He clasps the king's shoulder, and Seraphine doesn't miss the slight flinch. "What a joyous day, and this must be our new queen." He turns that smile on her, and something about it makes the beast inside her snarl in warning. "Welcome to the family, my dear. I am Valdric, the king's uncle and humble servant." Humble. The word drips with irony. His clothes are finer than the king's, his posture speaks of a man accustomed to power, and his eyes, pale gray, so similar to her own, hold calculation beneath the warmth. "Thank you, my lord," Seraphine murmurs, dropping her gaze. Let him think her meek. Let him think her just another sacrificial bride. "I hope to serve the pack well." "I'm sure you will." Valdric's smile widens. "For however long that service lasts." The king's hand spasms in hers, and she feels a spike of fury through their new bond, not at her, but at his uncle. There's history here, she realizes, poison beneath the pleasantries. "The queen is tired from her journey," the king announces, his voice carrying despite its roughness. "She will retire to prepare for tomorrow's healing attempt." Of course, of course." Valdric bows with exaggerated courtesy. "Rest well, my queen. Tomorrow is such an important day." He catches her eye as he straightens, and for just a moment, the mask slips. "I do hope you last longer than the others." Guards escort her back to her chambers, but Seraphine's mind churns with everything she's witnessed. The king's pain, now echoing faintly through their bond. Valdric's barely concealed hostility. Mordra's whispered warnings about questions and disappearances. She was sent here to heal a curse. But she's beginning to suspect the real sickness runs much deeper than silver in the king's blood. Night falls over Valemore Fortress like a hammer, crushing what little light the day provided. Seraphine lies in her borrowed bed, staring at shadows that dance on the ceiling, feeling the faint pulse of the king's pain through their bond. It's distant now. He must be drugged, she realizes, sedated to survive the night. She should sleep. Tomorrow will demand everything she has, but rest won't come. Her mind keeps circling back to the throne room, to golden eyes full of grief, to a king who watches his mother die every night while silver eats him alive. A curse that feeds on guilt. She sits up abruptly, her healer's instinct screaming. The three who came before her, they tried to fight the silver directly, to burn it out or draw it forth. But what if the silver isn't the curse itself? What if it's just a symptom? She needs to know more. She needs to understand what happened to him before she can hope to heal it. The corridors are empty when she slips from her room, her bare feet silent on cold stone. She told herself she'd obey the king's warning about wandering after dark, but her instincts are restless, her gift burning beneath her skin with the need to understand. The fortress seems to shift around her, corridors twisting in ways that don't quite match her memory from earlier. Twice she thinks she hears footsteps behind her, but when she turns, there's nothing but shadow. She finds the library by accident, or perhaps by instinct. A massive room lined with books and scrolls, dust thick on every surface. No one has been here in years, it seems. No one has sought knowledge in this place of violence and despair. Seraphine lights a candle and begins to search. The history of the Voss bloodline stretches back centuries. Recorded in crumbling journals and faded manuscripts, she reads of conquests and betrayals, of kings who ruled with iron and kings who ruled with wisdom. She reads of the current king's father, a brutal man who expanded the northern dominion through blood and terror, and of his mother. She stops, her breath catching. Queen Lysara Voss, a healer of unprecedented power, beloved by all who knew her. She married the Alpha King not for politics, but for love, a scandal that rocked the noble houses. She bore him one son, Kaelin, and devoted herself to tempering her husband's cruelty with mercy. And she died when Kaelin was 12 years old. The official record claims illness, a wasting sickness that no healer could cure. But the personal journals tell a different story. Whispered suspicions of poison, of a plot by nobles who feared a healer queen's influence. The king at the time launched no investigation, showed no grief. Within a month of his wife's death, he'd taken a new consort. And young Kaelin, the prince who'd adored his mother, who'd inherited her healing gift though he never learned to use it. He was sent away to train with distant warriors, forbidden to speak of the queen, forbidden to mourn. Seraphine's hands tremble as she turns pages. Here is the wound the curse has burrowed into. A boy who lost his mother, who was denied the right to grieve, who buried his healer's heart so deep it fossilized into rage. Dangerous reading for a dangerous hour. She spins, her heart slamming against her ribs. Valdric stands in the doorway, candlelight casting shadows that make his smile look like a skull's grin. He's dressed for bed, but his eyes are sharp, alert. The eyes of a man who expected to find her here. My lord. She manages a curtsy, her mind racing. I couldn't sleep. I thought some light reading might. You thought to dig up secrets better left buried. He moves into the room, his footsteps deliberate, predatory. The new queen, nosing through family history. What exactly are you looking for, little healer? I'm trying to understand the curse. If I know how it started. The curse started with a silver blade in battle, nothing more. He's closer now, close enough that she can smell wine on his breath and something else beneath it. Something that makes every instinct scream danger. Unless you're suggesting something different? Seraphine holds her ground, though every instinct screams retreat. I'm suggesting nothing, my lord. Only that curses of this magnitude rarely have simple origins. How wise? His hand shoots out, gripping her chin, forcing her face up. And how convenient that your search led you straight to records of the old queen's death. Tell me, did someone put you up to this? Is there some plot unfolding that I should know about? No plot. No suggestions. She keeps her voice steady despite the bruising pressure of his grip. I am simply a healer, trying to save my king. Your king? He laughs, the sound cold and hollow. You've been bonded to him for half a day and already you claim him. How touching. His fingers tighten, and she feels claws beginning to extend against her skin. Let me be clear, little healer. Whatever you think you've discovered, you will forget it. Whatever theories you're building, you will abandon them. Tomorrow, you will attempt to heal my nephew, and you will fail, just like all the others. And when you're ash in an urn, no one will remember you ever existed. He releases her with a shove that sends her stumbling against a bookshelf. Return to your chambers. If I find you wandering again, I'll tell the king you tried to flee. We both know what happens to brides who run. He pauses at the doorway, looking back with eyes that glitter with malice. Sweet dreams, my queen. Enjoy your last night breathing. Seraphine waits until his footsteps fade before she allows herself to tremble. Her chin throbs where his claws nearly broke skin, and her mind reels with implications. He knows something. Whatever truly happened to the old queen, whatever really fuels the curse destroying the king, Valdric is tangled in it up to his noble neck. She gathers the journals she's found and slips back to her chambers through servants' passages, her heart pounding with every shadow. The guards at her door don't question her absence. Perhaps they weren't meant to. Inside, she locks the door and spreads the journals across her bed, reading until her candle gutters and dawn begins to gray the sky. The curse isn't just silver and blood. It's guilt given teeth, grief given claws. A mother's death that a son could never mourn, weaponized into a slow execution. And Valdric, devoted Valdric, humble Valdric, waiting in the wings Valdric. He knew. Maybe he even helped create it. Tomorrow, she's supposed to attempt healing that will likely kill her. But now she has a weapon none of the other healers possessed. Truth. Or at least, the beginning of it. She just has to survive long enough to use it. The healing chamber lies deep in the fortress's bowels, carved from living rock and lined with silver-threaded wards that make Seraphine's skin crawl. Torches gutter in iron brackets, casting shadows that seem to writhe with malevolent intent. In the center of the room, a stone slab waits like an altar, and upon it lies the Alpha King. They've stripped him to the waist, and for the first time, Seraphine sees the true horror of what the curse has done. Black veins spiderweb across his entire torso, pulsing with a sickly inner light. His skin is mottled gray and white, patches of it flaking away to reveal raw flesh beneath. The wound itself, a jagged scar beneath his ribs where the cursed blade entered, weeps silver fluid that hisses when it touches the stone. He's conscious, barely. His golden eyes track her approach, clouded with pain but still burning with that fierce, defiant fire. "You came," he rasps. "I half expected you to be gone by morning." "And miss all this?" Seraphine keeps her voice light, though her heart pounds against her ribs. "I've never healed in such elegant surroundings." A ghost of a smile crosses his cracked lips. Gallows humor. I approve. The chamber is crowded with witnesses, Mordra standing rigid by the door, a dozen nobles arranged on stone benches like spectators at an execution, and Valdric positioned closest to the slab, his pale eyes gleaming with barely concealed anticipation. He wants to watch her die, Seraphine realizes. He's looking forward to it. "The ritual is simple," Mordra announces. "The queen will lay hands upon the king and attempt to draw forth the corruption. She will continue until she succeeds, or until she can continue no longer." "Until I'm ash," Seraphine translates silently. But she knows something now that the others didn't. The curse isn't just silver. It's grief given form, guilt made manifest. Fighting it directly is like trying to drain an ocean with a cup. She steps up to the slab and lays her hands flat against the king's chest. The moment her skin touches his, agony explodes through her. White hot, blinding, a scream of silver fire that threatens to tear her apart. Through their bond, she feels his pain magnified 1,000-fold, feels the curse rear up like a living thing sensing a threat. She doesn't fight it. Instead, she follows it, traces those black veins down through flesh and bone, past the physical damage to the spiritual rot beneath. And there, buried beneath layers of poison and pain, she finds it. A memory, crystallized in suffering, replaying on an endless loop. A boy of 12, cradling a woman's body in a garden full of dying flowers, blood on his hands, his clothes, his face, her eyes, gray as winter moons, just like Seraphine's own, staring up at nothing. And the boy is screaming, screaming for help that never comes, screaming at a father who watches from the doorway with cold disinterest. "I'm sorry," the boy sobs, rocking his mother's corpse. "I'm sorry I couldn't save you. I'm sorry I wasn't strong enough." The curse wraps around this memory like a parasite feeding on it. Every time Kalen sleeps, he relives this moment. The silver isn't killing him. His own self-hatred is. Seraphine opens her eyes. "It wasn't your fault," she says aloud, and the chamber goes silent. The king stares at her, confusion cutting through the pain. "What?" "Your mother's death. It wasn't your fault." She leans closer, her hands still pressed to his chest. "You were 12 years old, you were a child. There was nothing you could have done. You don't know. I know that you've been punishing yourself for 30 years. Tears blur her vision. "Whoever cursed you knew exactly where to strike. They didn't just poison your blood, they poisoned your heart. They weaponized your grief." Something cracks in his expression. "She died in my arms. I felt her go. I felt her soul leave her body and I couldn't." "You were a child who loved his mother. That's not weakness. That's not failure. That's being human." The curse surges, and agony tears through her with renewed fury. She hears gasps from the witnesses, hears Valdric's sharp intake of breath, and hears Mordra calling for guards, but she doesn't stop. "Let her go," Seraphine commands. Not the curse, but the king himself. "Kalen, you have to let her go." "I can't. If I let go, I forget. If I forget, she's truly gone. She's not in the pain. She's not in the guilt." Seraphine cups his face in her hands. "Your mother was a healer. She would never want her death to become a weapon against her son. You can honor her memory without destroying yourself. You can live, Kalen. She would want you to live." Something shifts in the golden depths of his gaze. Something ancient and terrible beginning to release its grip. "I don't know how," he admits, and the confession sounds like it costs him everything. "Then let me show you." Seraphine plunges her gift into the curse, but not to fight it. She pours healing into the wound beneath the wound, the grief he's carried for 3 decades. She shows him what she sees. Not a failure, not a monster, but a man who loved deeply enough that losing that love nearly destroyed him. The silver screams, the curse thrashes, and then light. Golden light explodes from their joined forms, filling the chamber, burning away shadows. Seraphine feels the curse shatter like glass, feels the poison dissolving in the face of something it was never designed to withstand: forgiveness. When the light fades, she collapses against the stone slab, utterly spent. But the king is sitting up. The black veins are gone. His skin is whole, healthy, flushed with color for the first time in 6 months. His eyes, still gold, still fierce, are clear of pain. He stares at his hands like he's never seen them before, then at Seraphine, crumpled beside him. "You did it," he breathes. "You actually—" "No." The scream tears through the chamber's stunned silence. Valdric lunges forward, his face contorted with fury, all pretense of the devoted uncle abandoned. "This is impossible. The curse was unbreakable. I made certain—" He stops, realizing what he said, realizing that every noble in the chamber heard him. The king's eyes go cold as winter death. "You made certain," he repeats, rising from the slab with a predator's grace. "Tell me, uncle, what exactly did you make certain of?" Valdric's face cycles through fear, calculation, desperation, before settling on defiance. "You were never meant to rule. A king with a healer's heart is no king at all." He draws a dagger from his robes, its blade gleaming with familiar silver sheen. "If the curse couldn't finish you, I will." He lunges not at the king, but at Seraphine. She's too exhausted to move, too drained to even raise her hands. She sees the blade descending, sees death gleaming in its edge, but the blade never lands. Kaelin moves faster than sight, his hand closing around Valdric's throat. The Alpha King lifts his uncle off the ground one-handed, power radiating from him in waves that make every wolf in the chamber drop to their knees. 30 years, Kaelin snarls. 30 years I blame myself for her death. And it was you all along. She was making you soft. She was making me good. Kaelin's claws extend, pressing against his uncle's throat. Something you've never understood. He could kill him. Seraphine sees it in every line of his body, feels the murderous rage flooding the connection between them. Kaelin. Her voice is barely a whisper. Don't let him make you into what he wanted. His jaw tightens. His claws draw pinpricks of blood. Then, slowly, he lowers his uncle to the ground. Life imprisonment, he commands. Let him spend his remaining years contemplating his choices in darkness and silence. That is what a healer's heart chooses. Guards drag Valdric away, but Kaelin has already turned, kneeling beside Seraphine, gathering her into his arms. You saved me, he says quietly, not just from the curse, from everything. You saved yourself. She manages a weak smile. I just showed you the door. His forehead touches hers. How did you know? About my mother, about the grief. How did you see what no one else could? Because I know what it's like to bury pain so deep you forget it's there. Her eyes flutter closed. And I know what it's like to have someone refuse to let you drown in it. Rest now, he murmurs against her hair. When you wake, we'll figure out what comes next. Together. For the first time since she put on that yellowed wedding dress, Seraphine allows herself to hope. 3 weeks pass like a fever dream. Seraphine wakes in the Queen's chambers. Real chambers this time. Not borrowed rooms for a sacrifice. Sunlight streams through windows she didn't know the fortress possessed. Word has spread beyond Valemor's walls. The Alpha King is healed. The Alpha King is transformed. His queen commands powers that border on miraculous. What the rumors don't capture is the quieter transformation within the fortress itself. It starts small. A guard approaches Seraphine hesitantly, his arm cradled against his chest. Forgive me, my queen. The bone healer says my wrist will take months to mend, and my daughter's naming ceremony is in 3 days. She heals him without hesitation, watching wonder bloom across his weathered face. By evening, word has spread. By the next morning, a line has formed outside her chambers. Warriors who once trained in brutal silence now call encouragement to struggling comrades. Servants who moved like ghosts begin to speak, to laugh. Children appear in corridors that have known only soldiers for decades, their laughter echoing off stones that seem lighter somehow. And through it all, she feels Kaelin watching. Their bond has settled into something constant, a golden thread connecting her heart to his. She knows when he's content, when he's troubled, when his thoughts turn to her with an intensity that makes her flush, but he keeps his distance. She tells herself it makes sense. He's relearning how to rule, rooting out Valdric's network, cleaning decades of rot. Still, it hurts. He's afraid, Mordred tells her one evening, watching the king cross the courtyard below. Of you, of what he feels. The last time he let himself love someone, he lost her in the worst way imaginable. That night, Seraphine finds him in the library, bent over documents. You've been avoiding me. He looks up. I've been busy. You've been avoiding me, and I understand why, but I need you to know something. She steps closer, close enough to touch. I'm not going to disappear. I survived being sold by my parents, survived being sent to die, and survived a curse that consumed 3 healers before me. Whatever you're afraid of losing, I'm not that easy to lose. His control snaps. One moment she's standing, the next she's in his lap, his hands buried in her hair, his mouth claiming hers with desperate hunger. The kiss is decades of suppressed emotion pouring out, hunger and hope and terror all tangled together. She gives back as good as she gets, her wolf howling in triumph. When they break apart, both gasping, his forehead rests against hers. "I've been trying to stay away," he admits roughly, "trying to convince myself that what I feel is just gratitude. There's nothing just about this." "No." His eyes crinkle with something she's never seen, pure, uncomplicated joy. "There isn't." The moment shatters with warning horns, urgent, desperate, the kind that haven't sounded since Shadowmere. They race to the battlements to find chaos below. A single figure moves through defenders like smoke, a silver-haired woman, wild-eyed, every warrior who engages her falling, screaming. "Mindbreaker," Kaelin breathes. "Valdrick's insurance policy. They can shatter psychic defenses, drive entire packs insane." The woman's head swivels toward them. "Little King," she calls. "Your uncle's loyalists send their regards. They say your queen will burn prettier than your mother did." Kaelin vaults over the battlement, shifting mid-fall into a massive black wolf. Their bond protects him from her gift, but Valdrick's loyalists emerge from shadows, and there are too many. Seraphine sees the moment a blade finds its mark, sees her mate stagger with silver gleaming in his side. She doesn't think. She jumps. Healing light cushions her descent, propels her across the courtyard. She lands beside him, hands pressing to his wound. "Get away from him!" she snarls at the circling enemies. The Mindbreaker laughs. "Stupid little healer!" Seraphine meets her attack with a blast of healing energy, directed at her mind, at the broken places that gave her power. She heals her. The Mindbreaker's eyes go clear for one heartbeat before she collapses. The Loyalists hesitate. Vale Moor's warriors fall upon them. Seraphine barely notices. All her focus is on Kaelin, on the silver blade between his ribs. "Stay with me," she begs. His eyes find hers, golden even now, even fading. "You jumped off a wall." "I improvised." "Terrible plan." But he's smiling. "Don't let me go." "Never. I told you. I'm not easy to lose." The healing takes everything she has. Silver poisoning again, not cursed, just deadly. She fights for hours, refusing to stop even when her vision dims and her own heartbeat becomes distant. Someone tries to pull her away, and she snarls, her inner beast surging to the surface in pure protective fury. Dawn breaks when the last silver dissolves. She collapses against Kaelin's chest, too exhausted to care about propriety. Through their bond, his heartbeat is strong, steady, and alive. "You need to stop almost dying," she mumbles. "It's very inconvenient." His chest rumbles with weak laughter. "I'll take it under advisement." When Seraphine surfaces, the sun is high, and Kaelin is watching her with an expression that makes her breath catch. "I'm trying to find the words," he says, his hand tracing her cheek. "For what you are to me. You could start with wife." "Wife?" "Yes, but also healer, savior. The woman who jumped off a wall to save me. You're never letting that go." "Never." Joy transforms his features. "You're the light that found me in a lifetime of darkness, the heart that taught mine how to beat again. Kaelin, I love you." The words fall like stones into still water. I've been too terrified to say it, too convinced that speaking it aloud would curse us, but I can't waste any more time on fear. Tears slide down her cheeks. "I love you too. Not the Alpha King. You. The boy who lost his mother and survived. The man who chose mercy when rage would have been easier." He pulls her close, and this kiss is different. Slow, reverent, a promise sealed in breath. "Marry me again," he whispers. "We're already married." That ceremony was a transaction, a sacrifice, walking to slaughter. His hands frame her face. "I want to marry you properly. I want everyone to know you're my queen because I choose you, because my wolf chose you, because every part of me that's ever known how to love, belongs to you now. Yes, 1,000 times. Yes. The second wedding takes place under a full moon, in a courtyard transformed. Where once there was only stone and steel, now gardens bloom, healing herbs and moonflowers and roses in every color. Warriors stand beside servants, nobles beside common wolves, children darting between legs in a way that would have earned punishment months ago. They're a family now, not just a pack. Seraphine walks the aisle in silver and gold, colors that once represented her cage now transformed into symbols of triumph. At the altar, Kaelin waits, looking at her like she's the moon itself descended to earth. I vow to protect you, he says, voice rough with emotion, to cherish you in darkness and in light, to love you, not as a king loves a queen, but as a man loves the woman who gave him back his life. I vow to heal you, she answers, not just your wounds, but your sorrows, to love the darkness in you as much as the light, to never let you carry your pain alone again. When he marks her, she feels their bond explode into fusion, two souls becoming one. Wolves raise their voices to the moon. Spring returns to the northern dominion, and with it, transformation. The fortress resembles a home now. A healer's school trains young wolves in gifts they were once told to suppress. Other packs seek alliances with the Alpha King who chose mercy, with the Queen who broke an unbreakable curse. Seraphine finds Kaelin in their private garden, tending moonflowers. He smiles as she approaches, a real smile, full and free. The Thornwood Pack wants to send young healers for training, she tells him. And you're pleased. Terrified. She leans into him. 3 years ago, I was a disgraced Omega being sold. Now I'm training the next generation of healers. Exactly what you were born for. She takes his hand and presses it to her stomach. Speaking of healing things, our family is growing. Joy, pure, radiant, uncomplicated, transforms his features. A child. Our child. Mordra says if it's a girl, we're naming her Lysara. Apparently, the Keeper has opinions now. He laughs, pulling her close. I don't deserve this. Any of this. You deserve everything. She cups his face. Spend the next 30 years learning that your worth isn't measured in who you couldn't save. It's measured in who you choose to love. And who do I choose to love, little healer? She smiles, pressing closer to the man who was her curse and became her blessing, her arranged marriage and her chosen mate, her dying king and her living heart. Everyone, but me, most of all. Above them, the moon rises full and silver, blessing the kingdom that learned to heal. And in the gardens of Valemore Fortress, where a healer queen and her wolf king tend flowers that bloom only in darkness, hope grows stronger than any curse ever could.